Hello and welcome to the first Ashen Rose Media Podcast. I'm your host Olivia and I'm going to be talking about anything to do with social media, marketing, commentary, influencer culture and everything like that. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then subscribe and you can hear more about my meaningless opinion. If you're interested in reading the condensed and original versions of these topics, then you can go into the description and you will find my blog where you will get a concise version of everything that I'm talking about. The first thing that I want to talk about is content creation as a small business. I thought I would go through things that you are more likely to need as a kind of like fundamental filming kit versus the things that are probably just nice to have but not essential. The first thing that I would recommend is actually not a paid thing, it is free resources. So before you buy anything, you need to make use of as many free resources as you can. For example, with the actual marketing side of it and the editing, when you're learning those kind of things, YouTube is still the best place for information. You can invest in a course, but to be honest with you, a lot of the courses that you will find online, unless they're done by, like industry professionals with like decades of experience, a lot of the courses that you're going to find are going to contain stuff that you can find on YouTube or online anyway for free. So you might as well just take the time, to go through it, and it's not something that you have to, be good at immediately. You don't want to be investing loads of money in courses. You can kind of procrastinate a bit and just, be like, oh, I'm learning this and that. But if you don't actually try to use the skills that you've learned, you're not ever going to learn anything because you're just learning in inverted commas. You're not actually applying the skills that you are working towards. The next thing I want to talk about are making a filming set. This sounds much more complicated than what it actually is, because when you think about a filming set, you think of, one of those big like Hollywood ones. But what I mean by this is just creating a space where you can film content and you will have minimal setup or like no setup at all. For example, if you look at my reels and my videos, I always film in the same place because not only is that my working area, it's also got good lighting and, it's the best place for me to film. So you want to pick somewhere in your shop or in your house that has that really good, lighting and everything like that. Anyway, we will go into lighting in more detail later on, but for backgrounds in general, you can go about this in a couple of different ways. You can get a sheet of fabric. I did that when I was volunteering for a charity shop, so we had sort of a blind that went down, but I also bought in my own fabric, this like velvet fabric that you could use for a backdrop. You could pin it up, and with this it's really good because you can basically use that and then you can put that anywhere and it can be your branding. It helps you become more recognizable. People will see that you're the person who's got the pink or the green background and it's part of you. If you want to go the extra mile, you could actually get a custom print of your logo on a bit of fabric. I've also seen people make their own kind of like mini sort of like set with free samples of tiles and like carpet and stuff like that. So that's another good idea. In general, I think one of the hardest things about making content when you're a small business is finding the time, but also the motivation. So if it's really easy for you to set up, you're obviously more likely to want to do it because you're not going to think, oh, I've got to get this out and move that and do this and that. Sort of circling back to the material kind of backdrop thing. When you are looking for material, I recommend one that you don't need to iron because there have been so many times when I've had to edit out dents and creases in the backdrop and it just takes that much extra time that you could be spending doing something else. Honestly, I would recommend getting like a plain background anyway, even if you're planning on removing the background for most of your posts, because I will tell you something, there's nothing more annoying than trying to remove the background that is really, really busy when you're just trying to remove it to just, put another background on it. So what I do, or what I would recommend you do, is you get kind of a light and a dark piece of fabric and then sew those two pieces together either with a sewing machine or whatever, and then you can just have that and then it just makes it so much easier basically. If you just want to avoid all this and you just want to invest in something right away and you've got a product-based business where the products aren't too big, say like cosmetics or ceramics or something, you could invest in a photo box. This is basically just a reflective kind of box that you can put different backdrops in, and it's usually like a fold out, fold away kind of thing, but they often have built-in lights and stuff, so it can be a lot easier. The next thing is lighting. If you're not doing voiceovers, then lighting is definitely like the priority for you. It doesn't have to be anything like fancy, but you want to make sure that you're at least using natural light. You could even use like a lamp or even just sit near a window and that can work fine for you. You can go down two routes really. You can go down the wireless and the wired route. If you're someone who films outside or like away from a plug socket, then you definitely want to do wireless. If you're someone who films mostly inside, not really moving around a lot, then a wired one is better because obviously you don't have to worry about it running out of battery or anything like that. Ring lights are the typical kind of influencer ones, the ones that are actually like rings of light. And then a softbox is basically what you will have in cinematic, like filmmaking. It's got a light that has a sort of bit of cloth that will make the light more diffused and have a more natural look. The ring light is definitely, it's good for short form and for live streaming. It can kind of make quite a harsh cast on your face. So if you're looking for more of a natural, one that mimics more natural lighting, then a softbox is definitely the way to go. Or if you want to go completely natural, then sitting in front of a window is the best thing to do. But obviously that is dependent on the weather and, the sun going in and out. So it can be a bit unreliable in that way. But apart from that, it's pretty good kind of free way to get good lighting. If you're someone who struggles with keeping your phone still while filming, then you're definitely going to want to have a gimbal or a tripod. You probably know what a tripod is, but a gimbal is basically an electronic tripod, to put it simply. A lot of them have selfie sticks in them already, and they electronically stabilise the footage and your phone while you're filming. They are quite a big investment though for a lot of small businesses because they go for, I would say, about £80 plus for a good one. If you're someone who, again, films mostly still content, a tripod is definitely something you need to invest in because it will just help you so much rather than trying to, set up your phone on like a pile of books. Yeah, definitely recommend a tripod. You can get like really good quality ones for like fairly cheap. Like, I think I got mine for like £20 on Amazon, I think. And my gimbal was originally, I think it's at 120, which is, it was quite an investment, but I knew that I was going to use it and would benefit from it. So it was worth it for me personally. Kind of similar to that is a microphone. So microphones are essential if you're doing any kind of voiceover. Because if you're someone who is gravitating towards long form content or you're doing a lot of voiceovers, people aren't going to stay if the quality is bad. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have a microphone. It just means that you have to have good quality audio, which isn't crackly. Stuff that people don't really notice when they're listening to you, which if you don't notice someone's audio, that is like the best thing because that means that they've kind of done their job of making themselves sound natural. Again, there are loads of options for microphones, and loads of cheap ones, loads of like more expensive ones. If you're someone who's finding that, if you get loads of background noise or anything like that, it doesn't eliminate it, but it definitely reduces it to a point that it can make some content that you usually wouldn't be able to upload passable. For example, I did my documentary on church architecture recently, and I filmed at a time of day where there was loads of people, loads of kids, and I was able to use my noise cancelling mic, and it basically saved footage because even though you could hear it slightly, it wouldn't have been usable without the noise cancellation. If not, you actually can use your own phone as a microphone. If you have multiple phones or multiple devices, you can actually record on your phone, hold it up like a microphone and then get that audio and put it into an editing app. One thing that I sort of see people not actually talk about when I talk about stuff that you need for content for social media is a content tracker, because it helps so much. People, when they hear like a spreadsheet, they think, oh my God, like I don't want to do any more Excel or whatever, but it will help you so much to actually sort of like see where and when you're going to post things. It can just be like a spreadsheet on Google Sheets. Again, that's free. If you're used to Notion, then Notion is good, but I've not been able to get on with Notion. Like, I've tried to use it a couple of times, but I've just always gone back to just using like simple stuff like Google Sheets, Apple Numbers and that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely if you need a tutorial on that, then I'm sure I could make one, or there's loads online. And also a lot of these apps will automatically sync, or if I just log in, anywhere with my email, I can just open a spreadsheet and it's there. I recommend it over a paper one purely because you can change it around. I mean, you can cross it out and everything, but yeah, definitely give a content tracker a try. Either Google Sheets, Excel, Numbers, Notion, any of those kind of things. Moving on to editing apps. Editing apps are one of the most important things to invest in, because it can make or break whether you find making content fun or, whether you hate it or don't hate it. Starting with photo editing first, there's a lot that you can do with free apps. I got Affinity Designer Affinity Photo and Affinity Publisher as a bundle back when it was a paid service thing in 2024, I think I got it. Because Canva owns Affinity now, they made it free. So Affinity is really, really good to learn, and there are loads of tutorials about it. If you want an easier one, Canva is the standard for small businesses, really. It's easy to use, it's free, you get a lot in the free version. Yeah, definitely recommend Canva for photo editing and like making graphics and stuff like that. Even though I will say that there's a lot you can actually get from within the apps that you use. So like TikTok and Instagram's like built-in editors are really good. At the start, I actually only use TikTok to edit my videos. It's a really good way to actually learn how to do video editing for short form because it has a lot of features, but it's not overwhelming. Whereas if you're using something like DaVinci Resolve, which is a free PC app, it's a big learning curve. Although I will say that CapCut is popular for a reason. It's probably the best app, to be honest, for short form content, because even though I would only really recommend the Pro version, which is £20 a month, it is quite a lot, but obviously if you're going to be using it a lot and you find it easy to use, then it's a worthy investment in my opinion. I kind of didn't realise like how much I was missing out on until I actually started using CapCut for my content. A lot of that you actually can do on DaVinci, but for now, CapCut is probably the easiest one to use. So that is a rundown on the apps and equipment that you might need when you're making social media content for your business. There is a lot of information that is out there, so I hope that this kind of made it a bit easier to kind of sort of think about what kind of content you might be making and, you know, what equipment you might need for that. I also made a conscious effort to not really recommend any specific products apart from the programs that I'm using, but obviously I don't get any commission or anything off that, so don't use those or use those, whatever. It makes no difference to me. And this is the piece that I was making throughout this podcast. If you like my art and want to purchase some of it, then I will have a link in the description where you can do that. Apart from that, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!